Welcome, my friends, to another Alliteration Gaming video. Today, I am your host, Alliteration Gaming Sensei. Once again, we are in the dojo, the lovely dojo. The dojo is a little overshadowed by our browser right now, but you know we gotta make do. We gotta make do in the dojo. So today, I wanted to bring you guys back in to talk about the Webcam Wednesday weekly results. The first big webcam event from the series that Jasco is putting on has concluded, and the results are, well, there's a lot of expected, but I do think there's a lot to talk about still, and it's at least a little more interesting than just Kirishima dumbed everybody like I think a lot of people just think by default. So right here we have this entire article that Jasco did on their website, on the MHA CCG website. A lot of great stuff on here. Go check them out. Really good resources they've put together for us. And they put together the entire top 8 breakdown. And so we're going to be going over that, as well as the deck lists, kind of a brief overview of the top 8 deck lists, and kind of like what I like, what I don't like about them, and why I think they did as well as they did. But first, let's go over the full breakdown. So we have 19 others, so we'll get to that. But first, then we have 17 Kirishimas. This is not surprising. Kirishima is definitely not unbeatable, but he is the undisputed best character, and it is not surprising that we saw him in the numerical dominance of the event and the placement dominance of the event as well. Then we have 11 Tokoyami. So that's like, they note this down here, but the interesting thing is the second most represented character in Tokoyami did not make the top 8 at all. So this is kind of what I was talking about, and I'm going to reference my tier list video a lot in this video because they kind of like, a lot of my thoughts are going to be mirrored between them. I think I put Tokoyami at the top of my A tier. I think he's a really amazing character, but he struggles in that Kirishima matchup, and that is just what bullies him out of S tier. I think he struggles a little bit against Eraser as well, but I don't think it's bad enough to bully him out of it. But the Kirishima matchup, that is what bullies him out of the S tier. So, but otherwise, he's a really phenomenal character. So I definitely understand why we saw so many of them, but also why he didn't make his way into the top 8. Then we had right under him 10 Eraser heads. This also makes sense. My S tier that I cited in my tier list video was Kirishima, Aizawa, Jiro, and this All Might. So seeing these 3 in the top 4 representation wise and stats wise, not surprising at all to me. Aizawa is an amazing character. He has so much flexibility, so much versatility in how he plays, and he is so strong whether or not his erase is powerful against you. Just being a 9-hander with +2/-2 speed to everything and infinitely recurring 1 mid blocks with breaker 1 on erase, that's good enough. That's so good enough to write home about. And then sometimes, hey, is your deck really reliant on your character? I'll turn it off. And also his Kirishima matchups are good. Like if you pilot that matchup perfectly, it is a lot more even than a lot of the rest of the cast. And then we have 10 Jiros. Once again, not surprising at all, even though she suffered a little bit of a nerf to her abilities for the webcam format. I am not surprised to see 10 Jiros at all whatsoever, and to see her in the top 8 makes total, complete sense to me. That she is right here. The character is insanely strong. Her chains are they're so free, and they're so big, and they're so hard to deal with. And I really think that Jiro's Kirishima matchup and the Eraser matchup, as like her 2 buddies up there in the S tier, in my opinion anyway, I feel like she has really good matchups against both of those, and I think she's kind of like the most well-rounded character to take in that sense, because Erase does not do much to her. -2 speed eventually just kind of stops being relevant once you're, giving +5, +6, +5/5 or 6/6 to everything. It's like, how hard are you really blocking this that late in? And then Kirishima wants to block everything. Her thing is eventually her chains get so big that nothing really blocks them. So again, I think it's really insane character. Then we have 10 Shigarakis. Now Shigaraki, I did put in my B tier, but I specifically cited that he is like an A tier character, but I think his Kirishima matchup is just so rough that, like, maybe it's the inverse. Maybe he belongs in the A tier and just he can't get into S because of his Kirishima matchup. And I might as well mention 8 Nomus as well, because I have the same logic here. These are both really strong characters, potentially very nice A tier characters, but I feel like their Kirishima matchup is just so rough that they just can't make it up there. But again, maybe it's the other way around, because I do think that they can fight most of A tier pretty well. So maybe they do belong in there, but they're always just going to get bullied because their Kirishima matchup is just so rough. And while this character remains so prevalent, it's going to be hard to take these, and like, you can probably get into top 8, but it's going to be hard to get any further than that, because the boogeyman here is waiting to just perfect block you all day. Next we have 8 Bakugos. Now I put Bakugo all the way down in either like B or C tier. He was pretty low tier for me. I put him down with like Deku and the early All Mights and stuff because I don't know. I don't think his character is that good. I think he's just kind of like, I don't know. I think he's just so reliant on just drawing well and being able to string out well, and your opponent playing into it as well. And I don't know, like I haven't faced the character that much. We have like one Bakugo player at my locals, and he's not seen a lot of success with it. Could just be his builds, could be the player. I'm possibly sleeping on this character. There were 8 here. He was recently represented, so it's possible that I'm just very poorly informed on this character. It's also possible that he is mediocre, and a bunch of people took Bakugo because he's a popular character. People like Bakugo quite a lot, you know. But I think it could go either way. Bakugo might be one that I have to rethink my opinion on, because I might just not have enough knowledge to really have a better opinion on it. But regardless, there were 8 Bakugos up here. Then 6 All Might 3s. This is probably the most surprising part of this pie chart. I expected to see a lot more of this guy. I think this guy is insane. Maybe I'm overvaluing him. Maybe he's not the 4th S tier character. Maybe he is, you know, more in the middle of A tier. Maybe he just wasn't represented enough in this tournament. It's hard to say. This was like 100 or so people, so like not the biggest sample size in the world, but enough to think about some stuff. So, but I definitely expected to see a lot more of him. And then for Ida, I think for Ida is like not much more than probably like the small like 2 or 3 numbers in here. He's just the one that managed to be more than the rest of theirs. I think Ida's he's a decent character. I think he's okay. I don't think for Ida means anything insane in this pie chart. He just squeaked out a little bit ahead number-wise than the rest. I think he's still a pretty average character, and his reciprocal burst kill game plan really got hurt by Plus Ultra's introduction into the format, and I think Ida will definitely need some new tools to climb back up anywhere from there. So that's the pie chart. So now I kind of want to go over, so like Jasco has some thoughts here. 17 players with the defensive Kirishima. Tokoyami second represented but not top 8. Eraserhead and Kirishima's prominence in the event proved that defense wins championships. I totally agree with this. Defense is always just going to be more consistent than aggro, unless you just have like, you know, a really stupid consistent aggro character, which I don't think that the aggro characters in the game right now represent that. But Kirishima and Eraserhead are definitely like crazy consistent, and they're super defensive characters. They also remarked that this is the first tournament with the new mulligan rule, and that they achieved almost a nearly 50-50 win rate between player 1 and 2. Very awesome. I love our new mulligan rule. Super, super, super great. So glad that we got that in, especially before these events started kicking off. Love, love, love the new mulligan rule. So now let's get into these deck lists. First place is Kirishima. Kirishima did take first place, and it was the Void list. So let's take a look at this list. So this list is really, really strong. Void Kirishima, I think, has really been slept on, because I think when Kirishima first came out, when the set first came out, everyone looked at the Earth build. Then the good build rose to prominence with the Omaha, the Tony 2/Shane build, and then now the Void build is kind of what's coming into popularity, because they're realizing that it has a really, really good matchup into the other builds. So the Earth build is the worst when it comes to the mirror matches because you have no throws. The good build we thought seemed really, really strong in the mirror matches because it has the reverse throw and all the damage pump on it. But now when we start to look at the Void build, we realize the Void build is probably the best when it comes to the mirror matches, because you have the grasping tape toss throws, and then you also get to play tape swing, which is a throw but even better, and then you also get to play a really insane card called Villains Defeated that you can infinitely recur as Kirishima. This card says when you block a rival's attack, flip to remove it and gain 2 health. So you get rid of you remove the reverse throws from the game when you're fighting the good build, and then they can't do that to you, and you get to infinitely loop your throws more than they do, and you're also healing the whole time. The good build doesn't have any heal, so you're healing the whole time, and you're constantly reusing this. This never goes away forever because you just flip it for the effect and then pick it back up with Kirishima and do it again. This list also, curiously enough, cited into Ida. I'm not really sure what those matchups were for. Maybe if someone's just like trying to exploit you as Kirishima, although I don't think he's a very exploitable character, but I can kind of see the potential here inside into like Ida with a Reciprocal Burst engine. It could definitely catch people off guard, and I think in maybe matchups where you just need to be like more aggressive, like I could maybe see side into this in like a Jiro matchup. Maybe that's what the tech was for. But either way, it's interesting that it's in there, but regardless, I can definitely see why the Void build rose to prominence for this tournament. I think it kind of came out as the sleeper build, and it's really, really good. So the interesting thing about the Void build is I feel like against Earth and the good builds, it has the better win rate, but I think against everything else, the good build has the better win rate. So I feel like it's more of a matter of, do you want to be better in the mirror match, or do you want to be better against everything else? And I mean, when you expect to see so much Kirishima in the event, I think I would rather play the build that's good against the mirror match. I can definitely understand the thought process there, but everything else, very, very standard. You know, we get Heroic Lineage, we get Fulfilled My Duties, you know, we get cool stuff, we get tape, you know, we get gotcha, we get our coordinated efforts, you know, we get all of our good Kirishima stuff and all our good Void stuff. Void is really kind of an insane symbol that I think people have been sleeping on for a while now. Their card quality is just very good, so very much see how this list was able to take the top. Yeah, it says it right here, you know, Tape Swing is a solid win condition, Heroic Lineage gives him the speed reduction, you know, Villains Defeated pressures their deck, and consistency and Void longevity let this win. Next, we have Eraserhead on Void. So this is going to be a very similar deck. So this is actually Tony 2's deck, I believe. This is the deck that he took after kind of like playing the Omaha event and thinking, where do we go from here? So he wanted to take Eraserhead, which I absolutely agree with. Insanely strong character. So he took an Eraserhead Void build, which goes through all of basically the same thought processes. It just plays the really nasty Kirishima attack, as well as the Ida kick engine and the Grasping Tape Toss throw for those defensive matchups. You get your, you know, you have your 4 coordinate efforts, you have your good stuff, you have your 4 Night Watch to shut down all those really annoying things. And then, of course, in the sideboard, we have Kirishima himself. So in those matchups where Aizawa is just not pulling a lot of weight as far as the erase goes, you can literally just side in Kirishima and then Hardened Chops. I assume you kick out the erases for like plus ultras and the Hardened Chops, and basically just side your whole list out essentially, and you play Kirishima on Void, which I think is insanely cool. I love that he thought to do this. I think this is a very, very cool deck, and I absolutely see why he was the other undefeated in this Webcam Weekly. Very, very, very solid list that does really, really good things. It's got the power of the Kirishima Void list, but also with the flexibility of Eraserhead, because again, the thing is, the Void build is better in the mirror match, but against everything else, I don't think it's as good as the good build. So against everything else, you can just kind of play Eraser, right? And probably be really, really good in that note. And then I assume you definitely side into Kirishima against Jiro, because Eraserhead doesn't do much against that. Then in third place, we have Kamui Woods on Air. So this is a really, 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 really cool deck. This is like the aggressive Kamui Woods, essentially. I know people were really excited about the Earth Kamui Woods build and just like never die, but this is Air Kamui Woods, and this is here to like string out, just hard string out with Meteor Showers, Home Run Comets, and Sound Waves to just like kill people. To just straight up kill people. The throws can come in with like plus 2 to 3 damage on them, like real late in your string. Really, really, really crazy. You have all of the good spams that Air gives you. So much crazy stuff. You know, your specialists are insane. You know, you got the Wealthy Aspirations, your free momentum, your wall cleans, you got all your good stuff. And then you're siding into Jiro, which I think is really, really interesting. I feel like that's an amazing side. I feel like that's probably there for the Eraserhead and Kirishima matchups. I feel like that was probably an MVP side. But I mean, we've talked about Kamui Woods. This character is really, really, really strong. People sleep on this guy so hard, even after the Omaha event. This guy's really, really, really strong. He's way up in my A tier for me. You cannot sleep on the Kamui Woods. He will eat you alive. And I mean, it says it right here. Strings of Meteor Showers and launching huge home run comments. Sideboarding to Jiro allows the deck to build a more consistent offense if it needs to push faster than Woods is capable of, because he's a little bit of a slower character. And some of the matchups, you just want to be a lot faster than that. So great list. Props to the Kamui Woods player. Fourth place is another Kirishima. This time, this is the Earth build. This is extremely similar to what we've gone over on the channel before. This was one of the I think this was the first deck profile for animation that I put on the channel. It's very, 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 very similar. Extremely similar attack lineup. They opt for the Relentless Barrages, which I totally agree with. I love Relentless Barrage. I think it's a very, very, very strong card, especially in this deck. It can let you do some really, really unfair strings. You have all your good Kirishima foundations. You have your shock absorptions, your It Can't Be Fixed, your super regions, your apathetics. You know, your really, really good Earth stuff. You know, your 4 coordinated efforts, you know. And then we have Ojiro in the sideboard, which I think is the coolest thing in the world. I imagine this is for the mirror match because you struggle so hard as the Earth build in the mirror match, because the good and the void build get to throw you to death, and you can't do anything about that. You have to be honest and get your damage in there legitimately. So I feel like that's probably where Ojiro comes in and just tries to be that that linchpin, right? That hate card. And you side the smashes too. These two cards are really, really, really strong with Ojiro, especially smash. So I imagine that's where all of that comes in. So very, very, very cool sideboard there. Definitely see why this got fourth. It's a super, super, super good list. You know, like it says here, you know, Texas Marshmallows Barrage give you so much offense. Apathetic is control. Kirishima can recycle it, and coordinated effort, you know, protect your coordinated effort basically, right? So very, very, very good list. Next, we have the fifth place, which is another Kirishima, this time on the good build. This is almost card for card the Omaha build, the Tony 2 and Shane build. I think this is almost card for card that build. It's very, very, very similar, that's for sure. I don't think they mained You're So Obvious on that list. Other than that, I can't see a lot of difference. And of course, plus Ultra is in the side now. The side is even very similar too, with the fourth, the third bonds, the second jack, etc., etc. Yeah, probably, you know, I'm sure it's great player, piloted it really well, but we've talked about this list to death, and there's not a lot more to be said about this list. It is a really, 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 really good list. You know, reverse throw completely changes the dynamic of the mirrors, and coordinated effort and celebrity status let you recycle it to hell and back, right? So for our sixth place list, we have Eraserhead on Void. Once again, another Eraserhead on Void. This one doesn't have his sideboard available. I wonder if he just didn't side or just didn't put it in there. But this is kind of more of a straightforward Eraserhead list. Much more aggro as far as the kicks are concerned. We've got the new Reciprocal Acceleration kick in there as well. We're only playing one coordinated effort. You know, we're playing less Night Watches. We're going for much less of a control build. I think this is much more of a standard Void Eraser build that we've seen like since the set came out and since the game has been out. Whereas the Tony build is a little more defensive, a little more control oriented, and much more focused on just like super strong defense, and then being able to flex between Kirishima for those matchups where Aizawa doesn't pull the weight. This is much more of the standard Void build that I think we're used to, but still definitely a very, very strong build. Like it points out, Reciprocal Acceleration Kick is insane, lets you be really, really aggressive even as a Eraserhead. You know, you should consider bringing cards that reset the speed of his attacks. Yeah, absolutely. Reciprocal Acceleration gets so fast in Aizawa. Then in seventh, we have a Jiro on Air. So like I said, yeah, we've got Jiros in the top 8. They were very, very, very good. Even in her nerf state, this is still a really, really insane character in a really insane deck. This is very similar to the Comley Woods list. It's definitely got a lot less cards in it. And it's playing more of like the Unwavering Slashes with the Earphone Jacks. You know, it's got the Amplified Sound Blast. You know, it's much more heavy on the flashes. It's got the one of Electric Jolt. I think that's hilarious. I love that. I'm seeing Instant Explosive make its way into a lot more of these air decks, which I think is really strong. This card's like really, really good, especially when you're throwing out this as your first swing, or like one of your flashes is probably going to hit too, especially this one. Like, who holds that low block and wants to stop, you know, 4 damage, or I guess 5 damage, right? It's like the other one's gonna be so scarier, and then this comes in and you're like, well, that's annoying. And then yeah, the flashes are all just really good against Kirishima. It's the best way to fight him. If you can just like throw 2 flashes and then build 2 paths, like that's an insanely good aggro turn against Kirishima. So very, very, very good standard air Jiro list. You know, we've got the Specialist of Sounds, the Latent Skills, the Amphibiouses, the Amphibiouses, that's actually kind of interesting. But I guess it makes sense for stuff like Explosive Release and when the lifts activate the momentum. Makes sense. And then just your good stuff, your Destins, your Releases, your Questing Assistance, your good spams. Very, very solid air Jiro list, and that's pretty much what they, you know, lots of flash attacks and consistent speed. That's pretty much says it all. And it also sides wall cling. I think it completely sides wall cling. No, it mains 1 and sides 2. That's very interesting. Very interesting displacements of the wall cling there. But I feel like a lot of the more aggressive decks that can play wall cling are moving towards siding it more just as like a side piece against stuff like Shigaraki and Nomu, so they can more focus on their consistent aggro game plan. And then our last list is another Air Jiro list, and this one is pretty similar. This one is running a lot more Electric Jolts. We have a spicy 1-of Pillar Swing. We're not playing the other flash attack, so quite some differences in the attacks there. We're not playing Unwavering Slash. Quite some differences in the attacks there. I think this one is a little more like This one's a little more streamlined, I think. I think this one kind of like has a more straightforward game plan as far as like play this, play this, play this, and then, you know, let your numbers rock, essentially. Whereas the other is a little more all over the place, a little more flash heavy for the Kirishima matchups. But I do think this is kind of more the standard Air Jiro list that we're used to. Interesting that we didn't see any good variant Staff Strike Jiros. It was both Air Jiros in here. I think the Staff Strike build is really good too. I think it's very capable of topping, but I do see the power in the air builds, having the flashes, having the same bigger numbers, having the more interesting ways to clear your card pool and get rid of your progressive, so you can, you know, keep Jiroing it up, getting all your stats, and, you know, girl bossing your way to the sun. Foundations are very similar. We have Rescue completed in here, which we didn't have in the other one, but it's only as a one of side. You know, we side our other short circuits, our other trading partners. We side all 4 Walklings in this build. Definitely, this is the in your face, beat 'em up, streamlined Air Jiro build. And I imagine we're going to see that. Yeah, a stronger focus on home run combat. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Each attacks are designed to generate momentum to create big home run combats. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Like I said, I already had it over. We're seeing a much more streamlined string of attacks here that are designed to make our home run combats strong at the end of our strings. And yeah, that is our top 8 deck list, guys. And those are kind of my brief thoughts on them. I love all of these lists. Very little, the entire top 8 did not surprise me. All of these are very strong decks and they're very strong characters that I expected to see here. I think there's other characters that we could have also seen here. I'm kind of surprised we didn't see any Ochako in here. I think like the air decks that play very similarly to her are almost as strong as the Jiro variants and the Kamui Woods variants, but I do think the Jiro and the Kamui Woods variants do edge them out quite a little bit. But overall, this is definitely a lot of what I expected it to see. Seeing these two be so represented like as the big dogs, but not making it to the top 8 also makes sense to me. I think these are really good characters. Really well-rounded characters, but it's just at the end of the day, once we get in the late rounds, they are kind of gate-kept by the top meta dogs. That's why, like I said, I think if we see nerfs to Eraserhead and Eraserhead, Kirishima and Eraserhead specifically, we will really see the meta open up a lot more, and we'll see Shigaraki and Nomu, I think, will be insane if these guys get nerfed. I think these characters are already really good. Just from a meta standpoint, it's hard for them to break that plateau when there's those really, really popular, really strong matchups that they can't handle. But yeah, guys, that's basically my entire thought on the whole of the results from the Webcam Weekly. Like I said, this is a lot of what I expected it to see. I think that Kirishima things aside, we do have a really, really nice and varied meta. I would still like to see them address them a little bit, just a little, and I do have a whole video going over what I would change about Kirishima, Eraserhead, and Jiro that would kind of like free up the format a lot. But I still think we're looking at a really, really nice, really diverse, and a very fun, a very enjoyable, fun to play format. And that's kind of just where I stand on this meta breakdown, and I can't wait till we get some more tournaments in and get some more data and can really kind of make some finalized stances on where things stand and should things need to be addressed and stuff like that. But for now, guys, that's all I've got to say. This was not, this video went on a little longer than I thought it would, but it's still definitely something I wanted to just kind of get out there, just kind of put my thoughts out there real quick and get some more really interesting meta discussions going. This is my favorite part about any competitive card game. I love discussing the meta, what's good, what's bad, what's sleeper, what's going to come out of nowhere, what's overrated. Like, I love meta discussions, and I think that there's so much interesting discussion to be had regarding MHA's meta right now that goes so much further beyond just Kirishima is going to dumpster everyone because he's Kirishima. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, my friends.